Good afternoon. Welcome to Jack Frost Garden Talks. Today we're talking about sedums. Sedum is a flowering succulent and it's part of the Crassulaceae family. Now, sedum has undergone a name change recently to help accommodate the 400 species that sedum actually has. So recently, sedum has been changed to Hylotelethium. There are actually 33 varieties that are in the Hylotelethium family now. Hylotelethium and sedum are both still under the Crassulaceae family, but one of the plants that we're going to be talking about today is actually Autumn Joy. Sedum Autumn Joy is now part of the Hylotelethium family. Even though sedum has undergone some name change, gardeners and growers still use the name sedum to refer to a lot of the plants. The plants have been reclassified into two main groups: low-growing sedums and upright sedums. Sedum grows pretty much anywhere that it can thrive, and that's usually in extreme conditions. Sedum is found on every continent in the world except for Antarctica. Both low-growing sedum and upright sedum have fleshy succulent leaves that come in a wide range of colors and sizes. They all have star-like flowers that come in clusters like this. Stone crops thrive on well-drained, sandy, rocky soil. They really like fast-draining soil, and they are extremely drought tolerant and heat tolerant as well. Sedums thrive on full sun. That means that they can survive on 6 hours or more sunlight a day. Now, they can be planted in partial sun, but you may see diminished flowering and leggy growth. Sedums can actually withstand a wide range of temperatures. As long as it stays below 90 degrees, you won't see any kind of burning on your leaves. Sedums that are grown in warm climates do appreciate some afternoon shade to keep their leaves and flowers from burning. Sedums are actually pretty self-sufficient. Being a drought-tolerant plant, they don't need a lot of watering. In their first year and while they're in containers, you want to give them water at least once a week to help them keep growing. Once they're established, they hardly need any water at all. They're extremely drought-tolerant, so you can actually overwater these by mistake, so it's better to be on the underwatering side for these. You can tell if it's getting too much water because the crowns will start to droop over and the leaves will start to turn yellow. Giving it too much water is really the worst thing that you can do for this plant. They really survive in arid climates and drought-tolerant areas. Being able to grow anywhere in the world, basically, they can survive in wide ranges of climates. So they can survive very harsh winters and really hot summers. As long as their roots are well established and they're getting the proper amount of sunlight, they'll survive pretty much anywhere. Now, sedums like to be under-fertilized a little bit, meaning that you can over-fertilize these plants. And when you do, a lot of times you'll see either diminished flowering or even the plant will start to die back. Now, fertilizing these plants is really simple. In the springtime, all you gotta do is give it a little bit of compost, and that's enough to carry it through the growing season and produce nice flowering in the fall. All members of the sedum family do flower, and their flowers, again, are very tiny star-shaped flowers, and they all grow in mounds and clusters on their plants. There are a couple reasons why your sedum might not be flowering. One in particular is it's not getting enough light. You might want to consider moving your plant to a brighter space or a space that has more light. The other thing that can prevent your sedum from flowering is overwatering, or if you have a very wet clay soil. When you consume sedum in low amounts, it's not toxic to you, but in high amounts, any sedum plant can give you upset stomach and vomiting. One great thing about the sedums is it has an amazing medicinal property. You can crush these leaves up to make a poultice and rub on wounds. The wound care provided would be anti-inflammatory and antiseptic. Sedums are actually really hardy against pests. You won't see deer eating them, you won't see any mammals eating them, and rarely do they get attacked by insects. Now, occasionally during a wet spell like today, we've got some rain, you'll see snails and slugs starting to crawl on your sedums. They will eat the sedum leaves, so you want to get rid of those guys. The only diseases really to look for when growing sedum is overwatering diseases. Now, that includes root rot and foliar fungal diseases, including powdery mildew. You can really tell these things by the way that your plant is growing. If it has root rot, your plant will start to droop over dramatically. And if it has a foliar fungal attack, then you'll notice that on the leaves. White powdery mildew looks exactly as it's explained. It looks like a white powder on the leaves. It's really easy to get off. All you need to do is take a damp cloth with some hydrogen peroxide and just rub the leaves. The best time to plant sedum is in the spring and summer when they're actively growing. This will ensure that the roots have enough time to establish before winter. If the roots do not establish before winter comes, then the plant can rot due to winter dampness. The best location to put these is in a sunny location, and because of their short stature, they can grow along borders, along garden beds, or even in pots and containers. Now, the upright sedum is great for terracotta pots, something that has a heavy base and some weight to it, because as you can see, once it starts flowering, it's going to get very top heavy, and you don't want that to fall over. Other sedums that are low growing can go well with other plants and make a nice trailing off the edge of the container. Maintenance for sedums is very minimal. Once they're established, they're pretty much self-sufficient. The only thing that you'd have to do for them is in the early spring, your upright sedums, you want to take away any of the dead growth or diseased branches to help encourage new growth coming up. In the late spring, you can cut your upright sedums back a little bit, and this will encourage a bushier growth habit. Now remember, when you do this, it will slow down your flowering a little bit, but not much. Just be aware of that. These plants are beautiful and you're gonna want to repropagate them. The only thing that I would suggest is not propagating them from seed. If you propagate them from seed, you're not likely to get a true match to the parent because most of them are cultivars. Instead, what you should do is take a stem or a leaf cutting propagation and go from there.